Coming in there after Judge Scott McAfee in Fulton County, Georgia, Atlanta, basically gave this ultimatum. That special prosecutor, remember Nathan Wade, who had a romantic relationship with Fani Willis, has formally withdrawn from former President Donald Trump's election interference case. As well, Nathan Wade's resignation came after Judge McAfee ruled either Wade had to leave his position or Willis would have to be dropped from the case. Fox News' Caroline Shively has more.
Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis scored a legal victory on Friday. A judge ruled she can stay on the election interference case against former President Donald Trump, but he released a scathing analysis of her decision to date Nathan Wade, the man she had hired as the lead prosecutor, noting the DA's lapse of judgment, unprofessional manner, and bad choices.
That's going to give the defendants a lot of ammunition moving forward, not just in a court bill, but there's also the court of public opinion.
Trump's co-defendants have alleged the relationship is a disqualifying conflict of interest for Wade and Willis. Judge Scott McAfee said they failed to prove that, but ruled either Wade or the entire prosecution team, including Willis, had to step down. Wade resigned on Friday.
They left a wounded Willis to continue on in the case, and she will stand accused of false statements as she prosecutes others for that type of conduct.
Trump's lead defense counsel said on Friday they respect the court's decision, but complained the judge didn't fully consider the financial benefits for Willis in giving Wade a job. The former president has been attacking the DA at campaign events after she testified she and Wade spent thousands on cruises and vacations.
They traveled all over the world together. Isn't that romantic?
If Willis had been removed, that would likely have pushed the trial in Georgia until after the election, but as of now, there is no official start date. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
Caroline, thanks so much. All right, in the meantime here, we want to talk about all of this even further with some of our friends and legal analysts, and that, of course, includes William Trackman and Randy Zellen. They join me. Randy, William, thanks for being with us on this Friday night. You know, we have been waiting for 2 weeks for Judge Scott McAfee's decision here, and at the end of the day, Fani Willis will still be the lead prosecutor in the Georgia election subversion case as well. Randy, I want to start with you. Were you surprised by this result, by this answer? And I had said that, you know, it seemed like the judge kind of split the baby here and gave Willis and Wade an ultimatum. And I was thinking to myself, if Nathan Wade had just resigned from the case at the very outset when these allegations surfaced, you and I and William, we wouldn't be talking right now, would we?
I had to rush home from dinner to make sure that I was here on time. 100%. I was blown away by the decision. In fact, I was teaching my class of Cornell Law when it came down, and one of my students, because we were talking about it, and one of my students interrupted me to give me the decision. The best way I can describe it was, it's an absolutely delicious decision. The judge realized as a matter of law, he couldn't disqualify her. So he did everything but disqualify her by giving her the choice. Either you walk or he walks. It was a brilliant, brilliant decision where he thought about, where do I want to end up? Now, how do I get there? He reversed engineered his decision.
So, William, to that point, if you're the judge in this, are you taking into consideration the political implications of this case at all, or merely, like Randy was alluding to, just the facts that was presented before him? Do you think that was in the back of McAfee's mind?
Well, you're not supposed to. When you're a judge, you're not supposed to consider what the political ramifications of your evaluation of the law are. Of course, he is running for election and does have a challenger. Just in the last few days, someone's announced against him. I hope he wasn't considering the political ramifications. Here in this context, I'm equally surprised as Randy is, because just 2 weeks ago, he said, I may have enough information to reach a decision in this case, even though the Trump folks say, well, we've got more witnesses, we've got more evidence. So I'm a little surprised that the judge would cut off the evidence and then reach the decision to split the baby, as you say here today, to leave Fani in. It's no choice at all. It's a Hobson's choice. Obviously, Mr. Wade had to go so that she can continue the prosecution.
And, you know, Randy and William, we got the news yesterday that the judge dismissed 6 of these charges against many of these defendants, including Rudy Giuliani and former President Donald Trump, with, I believe it's solicitation for a public official. And so we have these 6 charges dropped yesterday. We have this decision today. Now that Fani Willis can remain in this role, will she do anything different in her approach or strategy to prosecute this? Will she recharge, so to speak, these dropped 6 charges from yesterday? Is that an option, Randy?
I don't think she can help herself if her behavior on the witness stand is any indicator of her inability to be tempered and smart and measured. Then she'll probably look to recharge those 6 counts, which, quite frankly, it doesn't mean anything. And by the way, everything she does to recharge, on top of having to install a new prosecutor, makes it so less likely that this case is going to go to trial before the election. And remember, this is one case that Trump cannot pardon himself or have his vice president pardon him if he is re-elected, because it's a state case. So if this case does not go to trial before the election and he wins, you can pretty much kiss this case goodbye. So this was a tremendous win for Team Trump. Also keeping in mind that there's going to be jurors sitting in that jury who know full well the mockery that Fani Willis made of the criminal justice system.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's a good point, because once this does get to trial, if it does eventually, how are you going to find jurors who have no clue about this entire proceeding, William, to Randy's point? You wouldn't, or maybe you wouldn't.
Maybe
no, I doubt you could. I completely concur with Randy's point that you really can't trust Fani Willis's judgment here. Obviously, she's blinded by partisanship and blinded by self-interest. So maybe she won't recharge those 6 counts because she wants to take it to President Trump in the next 6 months so that she can make this an election issue. And the more delay that is in her corner, the worse for her. So maybe she'll just proceed now that Mr. Wade is gone. She'll say, let's go ahead and we'll go ahead with what we have left in the case. And that way she can do what she wants with President Trump. And maybe she'll find some jurors and be able to strike some jurors if she thinks that they're biased in favor of President Trump, based on the fact that they've heard about her shenanigans so far. Obviously, I agree it'd be hard for any juror not to have heard something about this controversy so far. It's embroiled the media for weeks and weeks now. And so it'd be hard, especially living in the area, not to have heard about it.
Yeah, I want to put this up here. It's kind of just a screen grab of the resignation letter. And you see there, I'm just going to read from part of it. Wade said he was doing so, quote, in the interest of democracy and dedication to the American public, and to move this case forward as quickly as possible. He went on to say, I'm sure that the case and the team will be in good hands moving forward, and justice will be served. Willis complimented Wade's professionalism and dignity in another letter accepting Wade's resignation effective immediately. Gentlemen, you both are lawyers, and good ones at that. How would someone's reputation recover from something like this if you're Nathan Wade? And this has been so public. You have your own, you being Nathan Wade, he has his own law practice, his own firm. He has his own clients. He was asked by Fani Willis's team to be the lead prosecutor in the election subversion case here. Can he bounce back career-wise? That's what I'm asking. Randy, you first.
Disappear for a few years. For those who may or may not remember, that's exactly what Marv Albert did. He got into a little bit of a jam. He was probably one of the most well-known sportscasters in the country. Ran into a little bit of a problem, and he did the smart thing. He disappeared for a while. He's back. Nobody remembers. If I am Nathan Wade, I go disappear for a while. I go low-key. I focus in on my law practice. I do community service. I get involved in my church. I be an upstanding citizen who walks old ladies across the street, and I bide my time. But remember, he was unqualified to do this beforehand. I don't think he ever handled anything more than maybe a sophisticated traffic matter. And I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just being, I think, factual here. The man had no business being the special prosecutor prosecuting a RICO case against the former president of the United States.
William, I'm going to leave it with you. Where do we go from here? There's no trial date set. Charges were dismissed yesterday. Is this whole prosecution teetering on the brink, so to speak?
Well, let me say, cry me a river to Mr. Wade. You get involved in a situation like this and you have a romantic relationship with the person who hires you. And then in your resignation letter, you say how much respect you have for that very person. Doesn't really square too well. In terms of next steps, I think we're going to see the prosecution try to rush things. Again, I think Fani Willis is blinded by partisanship and her, desire to stick it to President Trump. And so she is going to carry on and continue trying to prosecute the case against both President Trump and all the other co-defendants. I think that we will actually see movement between now and November, probably not a verdict, but we will see movement in this case over the next 6 to 8 months.
Okay, Randy, what say you on that? Our friend, former federal prosecutor Doug Burns, he doesn't even think this is getting to trial.
I think Doug raises a very interesting point, and one that I was just thinking about if we had time to talk about it, which is, if I'm Fani Willis and I want to go out and maybe have a shot of restoring my reputation, maybe I get behind the microphones and say, for the good of the country, for the good of these other prosecutions, I have decided we are going to walk away from this case and allow the other prosecutions that are ready to go or just about ready to go, let them go, and we will live to fight another day.
So,
not a chance.
So just lastly here, I mean, if you're going into your weekend and you have some of your friends and family ask you, well, why did the judge do that? Why did the judge keep Fani Willis on as prosecutor? Is that the right question? Because he really didn't. He kind of gave her an ultimatum. Either Wade goes or you go.
Yes, I think what happened was the judge determined that as a matter of law, the burden of proof was an actual impropriety, as opposed to the appearance of an impropriety. And since Fani Willis was not sleeping with a prosecution witness or was not sleeping with a member of Trump's legal team, where there would be an actual conflict,
I see.
The appearance simply wasn't enough. So what he did was basically chop her head off anyway, because to William's point, you go or he goes, but no matter what, this case is getting derailed and your reputation is shot.
Yeah. I mean, William, just lastly, too, he rebuked her quite forcefully, but, I'm going to have a lot of people ask me about this on the weekend. I'm sure you are as well. That distinction is important to make, is it not? This was not an outright, firing, so to speak, of Fani Willis. She got a second chance.
He sliced the bologna very thin. So it wasn't just this conflict about Mr. Wade. He questioned her testimony on the stand, mentioned that anyone who had this demeanor on the stand had questionable judgment. And so to leave her in the position really is somewhat of a cop-out, I would say. After all the analysis you do on the impropriety, to then say, well, all you have to do is fire one person, then we can just go forward. It doesn't really square with me in terms of my intuition. If you're going to make all these findings and then leave her in the case, what was the point of making the findings in the first place?
Okay, we'll leave it at that. William Trackman, Randy Zellin, have a good weekend, man.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, Andrew.